Have you ever wondered why it feels so hard to let go of someone or something, even when you know it's hurting you? That heavy pull in your chest, the endless thoughts that won't leave your mind, the way your mood rises and falls depending on what another person does or doesn't do. This is the silent weight of emotional attachment. It feels like love, it feels like connection. But when it crosses a line, it turns into dependence. And dependence is not freedom. It is a cage built not by the world but by your own mind. The truth is, your brain is wired to attach. Every time you share a laugh, a hug, or a meaningful moment, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. These chemicals reward you, making you feel safe, making you feel alive, making you want more of that person or experience. But what the brain doesn't always tell you is that this same wiring can turn against you. The very bond that once gave you comfort can now hold you hostage. Instead of joy, you feel fear. Instead of peace, you feel anxiety. You're no longer choosing connection. You're clinging to it, terrified of what life will be without it. This is where most people get lost. They confuse attachment with love. They believe that to love someone means to hold on at all costs, to never let go, to build their entire sense of self around that bond. But love is not about possession. Love is freedom. Love is strength. Love grows in space, not in chains. And when attachment takes over, it's no longer love. It's control, it's fear, and it's a slow erosion of who you truly are. So why does this matter to you right now? Because if you're holding on to something that is draining your soul, you already know the cost. It's the sleepless nights. It's the loss of confidence. It's the way you silence your own needs just to keep the connection alive. You start to shrink, to bend, to compromise your own worth, all because your brain whispers that you cannot live without them, without it, without the outcome you so desperately crave. But here is the truth that will set you free. You can live without it. You can breathe without it. You can thrive without it. Detachment is not about shutting down your emotions or turning into stone. It is not about becoming cold or distant. Detachment is about reclaiming your power. It is about realizing that you are whole, even without the attachment. It is about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and strength over fear. When you detach, you don't lose yourself. You finally return to yourself. And here is your reward for staying with me. When you learn to emotionally detach, you stop living in fear. You stop giving away control of your happiness. You begin to live from a place of inner freedom, where no one can shake your foundation. That is why this journey matters. That is why you must keep listening. Because by the time you finish, you will hold the keys to unlock a freedom you didn't even realize was possible. A freedom that allows you to feel deeply, love deeply, and live fully, without being chained to anything or anyone. Freedom begins the moment you realize you are not here to control everything, nor are you here to be controlled by anyone else. The power of emotional detachment lies in understanding that peace comes when you no longer place your happiness in the hands of people, circumstances, or outcomes. Imagine the weight you carry every time you expect someone else to make you feel whole. That weight is not love. That weight is fear disguised as need. When you free yourself from it, you discover a calm strength that no one can touch. Detachment is not about turning away from life. It is about showing up without the chains of expectation. It is the courage to give your best, to love fully, to commit deeply, yet not be destroyed if things do not go your way. Think about how much suffering comes from expectation. You expect people to act a certain way, and when they don't, you feel betrayed. You expect outcomes to unfold perfectly, and when they don't, you feel broken. But what if you release that constant demand for control? What if you gave your all and simply allowed life to move as it must? That is the essence of detachment. It is surrender without weakness, strength without rigidity, love without fear. The tighter you cling, the faster things slip away. Holding on too tightly to people often pushes them away. Holding on too tightly to outcomes blinds you to new opportunities. But when you learn to hold life with open hands, you become free to receive. You stop suffocating what you love. You stop smothering your dreams. You give them room to grow. Detachment is the act of loosening your grip. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that control is an illusion. This freedom is not just emotional, it is deeply psychological. Studies in resilience and well-being show that people who practice emotional independence experience greater self-esteem, lower anxiety, and higher levels of life satisfaction. Why? Because they know that their value is not tied to another person's approval or a single desired outcome. They root themselves in who they are, not in what others give them. This creates unshakable stability, a kind of inner armor that no rejection, no failure, and no loss can destroy. That is the true gift of detachment. It doesn't make you colder, it makes you stronger. Think of the difference between a tree with shallow roots and one with roots deep in the ground. The shallow tree falls with the first storm, tossed around by every gust of wind. But the tree with deep roots stands tall, unshaken, even when the sky is breaking open. Emotional attachment makes your roots shallow, tying your sense of stability to things outside of yourself. Detachment deepens those roots, anchoring you in your own worth, your own values, your own strength. No storm can rip that away from you. This is why freedom through detachment matters so deeply. It is not a distant concept. It is a practical path to peace. Every time you choose not to chase, not to beg, not to demand, you reinforce your inner strength. Every time you release control, you create space for clarity. Every time you let go of fear, you allow love to flow more naturally. The reward is a life no longer lived in chains, but one lived with a steady heart, a calm mind, and the unshakable freedom of someone who knows they are enough. If freedom is the reward, then the first step is recognizing what has been holding you captive. Emotional attachment often hides in plain sight, disguised as loyalty, commitment, or even love. But when you look closer, you begin to see the chains. They are the constant need for someone's approval before you can feel good about yourself. They are the fear of silence when a message goes unanswered. They are the sleepless nights spent replaying conversations, searching for meaning in words that were never meant to define you. These chains are not always visible, but you can feel their weight in the pit of your stomach, in the racing of your thoughts, and in the tension that never seems to leave your body. Every person has experienced them. Some chains are tied to relationships, where your sense of identity becomes entangled with another person's presence or absence. Others are tied to outcomes, where your happiness rises and falls depending on whether life unfolds exactly as you demanded. And some are tied to the deep fear of rejection, where you give away your worth in the desperate hope of being chosen, even at the cost of your own peace. These attachments feel safe because they are familiar, but in truth, they are prisons that keep you from living freely. Psychology teaches us that much of this clinging comes from fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of being unseen or unloved. Scarcity drives it. The mind whispers that if you let go, nothing better will come, that if you don't hold on, you'll be left with nothing. This illusion traps you in cycles of desperation. You compromise yourself just to keep the attachment alive, even when deep down you know it is draining you. But awareness is power. The moment you name these chains, you weaken them. The moment you admit to yourself, yes, I am giving away too much of myself just to hold on, you begin the process of freedom. Recognizing that your constant checking, your endless worrying, your unwillingness to walk away are not signs of love but signs of fear is the turning point. When you can face this truth without denial, you open the door to transformation. Ask yourself now, who or what is controlling my emotions today? Is it a person who does not respect me? Is it an outcome I cannot control? Is it the fear of not being enough? Be honest, do not run from the answer, because whatever you identify in this moment is not your source of strength. It is your chain. And no matter how beautiful, familiar, or comforting it once seemed, a chain is still a chain. Breaking free does not happen by pretending the chain does not exist. It happens by confronting it, seeing it clearly, and deciding you will no longer allow it to dictate your worth. The pain you feel is not a punishment. It is your wake-up call. It is the signal that something in your life has too much power over you. And the moment you see it for what it is, the moment you refuse to keep feeding it, you take back control. You were not born to be a prisoner of your own emotions. You were not designed to cling out of fear. You were meant to love deeply, live fully, and walk strongly. But to do that, you must first break the chains that keep you small. And the first link to break is awareness. The courage to see clearly where you've been trapped, so you can rise into the freedom that has been waiting for you all along. Awareness is the beginning, but transformation requires rewiring the way you think. The chains of attachment are forged in the mind, built from beliefs that whisper lies about your worth and your ability to stand alone. If you want freedom, you must start with those beliefs, because the thoughts you repeat become the emotions you feel, and the emotions you feel shape the choices you make. To detach, you must unlearn the idea that you are incomplete without someone else. You must replace the voice that says, "I need them to be whole," with the truth that says, "I am already whole." Your mind is powerful, but it can also be your prison. When you constantly replay scenarios, when you overanalyze every word, when you convince yourself that your happiness is tied to outcomes you cannot control, you strengthen the chains. The brain thrives on patterns, and it will continue to feed you the same thoughts until you choose to disrupt them. This is where detachment begins to take root, in the quiet decision to change the way you speak to yourself. Every time you catch the thought that says, "I cannot live without them," and replace it with, "I can breathe without them," you create a crack in the wall that holds you back. Every time you shift from, "I need this to be happy," to, "I choose happiness within myself," you take back ground that once belonged to fear. This is not an overnight process. Detachment is like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it becomes. At first, it may feel unnatural to change your inner dialogue, to stop chasing, to pause before reacting. But just like training any muscle, repetition builds strength. The mind resists at first because it clings to what is familiar, even if that familiarity is painful. But every time you refuse to feed old thought patterns, you weaken them. And every time you plant a new belief, you strengthen the roots of freedom. Psychology calls this cognitive reframing, teaching the brain to view situations through a new lens. When you no longer interpret silence as rejection, but instead as space, you break a chain. When you no longer interpret someone's withdrawal as proof of your inadequacy, but simply as their choice, you break another. And when you no longer measure your value by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself, the chains fall faster, you rise higher, you reclaim your life thought by thought. There is power in mindfulness, in choosing to be present, rather than lost in the endless replay of the past, or the fearful projections of the future. When you practice being here, in this moment, you reduce the grip of attachment. You begin to see clearly that much of your suffering comes not from reality itself, but from the story your mind tells about it. Detachment is cutting through that story. It is pausing, breathing, and asking, "Is this thought serving me or is it enslaving me?" Each time you choose the first, you reclaim control. The truth is simple but life-changing. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses them. And when you start choosing differently, everything changes. Your emotions stabilize, your confidence rises, your energy returns. Detachment becomes not an act of resistance but an act of self-love. Because choosing yourself is not selfish, it is the only way to break free from the illusions that keep you small. And when you finally rewire the mind to see yourself as complete, powerful, and whole, no attachment can ever hold you captive again. Once you begin to change the way you think, the next step is protecting the space you've created within yourself. Without protection, old patterns return. This protection comes in the form of boundaries, clear, firm, and unapologetic lines that separate your peace from the chaos of others. Without boundaries, you leave yourself open to manipulation, to overextension, to the constant erosion of your self-worth. With them, You reclaim control over your energy, your time, and your emotions. A boundary is not a wall that blocks out love. It is a filter that allows in only what nourishes you and rejects what poisons you. Too often, people are afraid to set boundaries because they fear rejection. They worry that saying no will push people away. But the truth is, the people who truly respect you will never be pushed away by your self-respect. It is only those who benefit from your lack of boundaries who will resist them. And once you understand this, you realize that saying no is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-preservation. Every time you answer a call you didn't want to take, every time you explain yourself when no explanation is needed, every time you stay silent to avoid conflict, you weaken your boundary. And with each weakness, attachment grows stronger. But the opposite is also true. Each time you assert your limits, each time you honor your needs, each time you refuse to be guilted or manipulated, you reinforce your detachment. Boundaries are the shield that protect the freedom you are working so hard to build. Psychological research confirms this truth. People with strong boundaries report lower stress, higher satisfaction in relationships, and greater self-esteem. Why? Because they are no longer living on someone else's terms. They are no longer sacrificing themselves to meet endless demands. They are no longer afraid of the consequences of saying no. Their worth is not measured by how much they can tolerate, by how much they value themselves. That shift changes everything. It is not always easy to set boundaries, especially if you have lived your life without them. At first you may feel guilt. You may fear you are being selfish. But guilt is nothing more than a conditioned response from years of putting others above yourself. In time, that guilt transforms into strength, and you begin to realize that self-respect is not selfish. It is the foundation of every healthy connection. When you respect yourself enough to set boundaries, you teach others how to respect you as well. Boundaries create clarity. They show you who values your presence and who only values your compliance. They reveal who truly wants you for who you are and who only wants you for what you can give. And while that truth may sting, it is liberating. Because once you see it, you stop chasing the love that drains you and start opening space for the love that strengthens you. Detachment and boundaries walk hand in hand. One cannot exist without the other. Detachment frees you from dependence, and boundaries protect that freedom. Together, they create a life where you no longer feel controlled by anyone or anything outside of you. They build the foundation of a self-respecting, self-empowered, and self-anchored life. And when that foundation is solid, no one can shake your peace again. Boundaries give you protection, but true detachment comes alive in the daily practice of letting go. Letting go is not a single decision you make once, it is a repeated choice, a habit you build every day. Each morning brings new opportunities to release the grip of fear, to loosen the hold of control, to surrender what was never yours to manage in the first place. The practice begins in small moments. It begins when you resist the urge to chase after clarity from someone who refuses to give it. It begins when you stop scrolling, stop checking, stop waiting for a response that may never come. It begins when you breathe deeply instead of reacting immediately, when you choose calm over chaos. Letting go means giving yourself permission not to solve every mystery, not to force every outcome, not to carry every burden. It is recognizing that life does not always give answers on demand, and that peace does not come from controlling the uncontrollable. The more you release, the lighter you become. You no longer carry the unnecessary weight of what others think, of what they choose, of how they act. You reclaim the energy that was once wasted on endless overthinking. That energy becomes fuel for your growth, your healing, your strength. The science of stress shows that clinging to outcomes triggers the release of cortisol, the hormone that keeps your body locked in fight or flight mode. When you let go, your body shifts, your nervous system calms, your mind clears. You create space for better decisions, for deeper peace, for a sense of freedom that cannot be found in control. Letting go is not a loss, it is a return to balance, to clarity, to the natural rhythm of life. Detachment is built through simple daily acts. You journal your thoughts instead of burying them. You sit in silence instead of seeking constant distraction. You remind yourself that effort is yours, but results are not. You commit to showing up fully, but without demanding the world to bend to your will. This shift transforms the way you experience life. Success no longer feels like a desperate chase, but a natural outcome of steady, focused action. Relationships no longer feel like battles to win, but spaces to give and receive freely. Every act of letting go strengthens you. The first time you resist the urge to beg for attention, you feel lighter. The first time you refuse to sacrifice your peace for approval, you feel stronger. The first time you walk away from manipulation, you feel free. These moments may feel small, but they are victories. Each one is proof that you are no longer a prisoner of fear. Each one is evidence that you are becoming unshakable. The reward of letting go is profound. It is not emptiness, it is space. Space for peace to enter, space for self-respect to grow, space for love to flow in its purest form, not tainted by desperation or fear. Detachment through letting go transforms your life from the inside out. You no longer cling to what is slipping away. You no longer chase what was never meant for you. You no longer lose yourself in the chaos of what you cannot control. Instead, you rise into a calm strength, a steady power, a freedom that no one and nothing can take away from you. The truth is, life will only honor you in the same way you honor yourself. If you treat your goals casually, life will treat them as optional. If you treat your dreams as if they are negotiable, life will keep presenting you with distractions that dilute your focus. But the moment you decide that nothing will stand in the way of your growth, the universe begins to align in your favor. Strength doesn't come from what you occasionally do when you feel inspired. It comes from what you repeatedly do, even when your emotions try to pull you back into old patterns. Discipline is not punishment. It's the highest form of self-love, because it proves that you refuse to abandon yourself. The reason so many people feel stuck is not because they lack opportunities, but because they lack consistency in their commitment. They start with passion but quit when the path becomes inconvenient. They expect progress to feel easy, and when it doesn't, they misinterpret discomfort as a sign to stop. But discomfort is not a barrier. It's the evidence that you are growing beyond your limits. Every repetition, every sacrifice, every small decision to stay aligned with your higher self builds a momentum that cannot be broken by temporary setbacks. Growth never asks, "Are you comfortable?" It asks, "Are you willing?" Will. You cannot keep living at the mercy of your moods. If you only act when you feel like it, you'll stay in the same place forever. Progress belongs to those who move, even when their mind resists. That inner resistance is not your enemy. It's the weight you are meant to lift, the signal that strength is waiting to be built. Each time you push through that resistance, you teach your mind who is in charge, and you step closer to the identity of the person you are destined to become. You must stop glorifying waiting, waiting for the right time, waiting for more clarity, waiting for a sign. Life does not reward hesitation, it rewards action. The longer you wait, the more you reinforce the belief that you are not ready, and that belief becomes a cage. Readiness doesn't come before action. Readiness is created through action. The moment you take the first step, the path begins to reveal itself. It's not about knowing every detail, it's about trusting that the strength you need will be built along the way. Self-respect is forged in the moments where you keep the promises you made to yourself. Every time you follow through, even in the smallest task, you create evidence that you can trust yourself. And the more you trust yourself, the less you need external validation to keep going. Confidence is not found in perfection, it's built in the fire of perseverance. It grows each time you rise after falling, each time you silence the voice that says not today, and choose today anyway. The life you desire will not be handed to you, it will be demanded of you. It will ask for your energy, your patience, your courage, and your persistence. It will test your resilience and challenge your limits, but it is within that struggle that you uncover the depth of your strength. Every day you show up, every day you choose discipline over distraction, every day you lean into the discomfort, you are shaping yourself into someone unstoppable. And when that transformation takes root, you no longer chase opportunities. opportunities chase you. The longer you hesitate to claim your potential, the more power you give to your doubts. Fear thrives in delay, feeding on your hesitation and convincing you that the safest path is the one where nothing changes. But safety is not the same as fulfillment. Safety without growth becomes a prison, slowly suffocating the parts of you that were designed to expand. Deep down, you know you weren't born to merely exist. You were born to break limits, to challenge the ordinary, and to live in alignment with the greatness that calls from within. Every moment you resist that call, you betray the very reason you are here. Strength is not built in the absence of difficulty, but in the decision to rise in spite of it. Life is not meant to hand you certainty. It is meant to shape you into someone who can create certainty from within. You do not need to know how every step will unfold. You only need to trust that each step you take plants the seed of transformation. The pain of discipline, the discomfort of persistence, the effort of showing up daily. These are not punishments. They are investments. And every investment compounds into a future that rewards you beyond what comfort ever could. The truth is, you cannot keep negotiating with your old excuses if you truly desire change. Excuses disguise themselves as reasons, but at their core, they are lies meant to protect your comfort zone. And your comfort zone, if left unchallenged, will become your coffin. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," you teach yourself that your dreams are not urgent. Every time you settle for distraction, you train your mind to choose escape over empowerment. But the moment you refuse to settle, the moment you say enough, everything begins to shift. What you repeatedly tolerate becomes your standard. If you accept mediocrity, it becomes your identity. If you accept doubt, it becomes your default. But the opposite is also true. If you demand excellence from yourself, it becomes your nature. If you feed your courage daily, it becomes your instinct. You are always training yourself, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are you training strength or are you training weakness? Life is too short to keep living as a spectator. Watching others succeed while you silence your own voice will only deepen your frustration. Your purpose will not wait forever. It will keep whispering, it will keep nudging, but if ignored long enough, it will turn into regret. And regret is the heaviest weight a human soul can carry. The time is now, not because everything is perfect, but because every delay steals from the limited days you have left. The fire inside you is not asking for permission, it's asking for release. It's waiting for you to stop doubting, to stop waiting, to stop excusing, and to finally move. Every great life begins with a single decision: to no longer be defined by the past, no longer be ruled by fear, no longer be held hostage by hesitation. That decision can be made right now, and when it is, nothing remains the same. You stop existing and start living. You stop wishing and start becoming. You stop dreaming and start building. And once you begin, momentum takes over, and the version of you that once felt impossible becomes the only version you are willing to accept. The weight you carry is not from the challenges themselves, but from the meaning you've given them. Pain becomes unbearable when you label it as punishment, but the moment you see it as preparation, its grip loosens. Every setback, every rejection, every closed door is not proof of your inadequacy, but a sharpening of your strength. You are being sculpted, not broken. The chiseling away of your comfort is not cruelty. It is the universe demanding that you step into the form you were destined to embody. The life you dream of cannot be lived with the habits of the person you used to be. Transformation requires shedding, and shedding always feels like loss until you realize it was the weight that kept you from rising. Discomfort is not your enemy, it is your initiation. Every surge of fear is an invitation to grow. Every doubt that whispers in your mind is an opportunity to choose belief instead. Growth has always been uncomfortable because it requires the death of who you were to make space for who you must become. The resistance you feel is proof that you are alive, proof that there is more waiting for you, proof that your journey is not yet complete. To run from discomfort is to run from destiny, To embrace it is to declare that your vision means more than your temporary ease. There is a power inside you that has been waiting for the moment you stop underestimating yourself. You have endured storms. You have walked through nights you thought would never end, and still you are here. That is not weakness. It is resilience. That is not survival. It is strength disguised as ordinary life. If you were truly powerless, you would not have made it this far. The evidence of your endurance is undeniable, and the same force that carried you through yesterday will carry you into the future you hunger for. The voice that tells you to quit is the same voice that will beg you for mercy if you silence it. Your doubts are loud because they fear losing control. They know that once you act, once you commit, once you rise, they will no longer have power, and you must decide whose voice you will obey, the one that chains you to the familiar or the one that dares you to reach higher. Obedience to fear guarantees mediocrity. Obedience to courage guarantees transformation. There is no perfect moment coming. The alignment you are waiting for will never arrive because alignment is not found. It is created by your decision to move forward in faith. The people you admire are not different from you. They simply refuse to wait for certainty. They stepped into the unknown with trembling hands and shaky voices, and in that leap, they discovered wings. You are no different. The same fire burns in you, the same hunger lives in you, the same possibility belongs to you. Every second you hesitate is a second stolen from the life you deserve. The clock is not pausing for your fear. Time does not stop while you decide if you are worthy, and that truth should ignite urgency within you, not despair, because the moment you decide, the moment you stop waiting, the moment you commit without conditions, your entire existence shifts. You stop dragging the weight of hesitation and begin carrying the strength of conviction. And with that conviction, there is nothing you cannot create, nothing you cannot endure, nothing you cannot become.